Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking. It means a lot that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And I haven't done a top 5 in a while. I like doing them. I just find covering the current season to be more fun than covering past ones. But since we're in the midst of the 42 pre-merge, I think it's the perfect time to talk about my top 5 pre-merge blindsides. So to be clear, it isn't just focusing on the vote in an episode or even the whole tribal in an episode, but rather the entire sequence that leads to a person getting blindsided. So that can start after a tribe loses the immunity challenge, when they get back to camp, or it could start 3 episodes before that. If that's when the blindside plan originated. I feel like it can happen at any time. It can start at any time. I really just want to talk about the boot itself, the person who goes home, and the people who cause them to go home. What should my next top 5 be about? Let me know in the comments. All right, so I'll be up front and say that all the entries on this list are from season 33 or better. And I don't know if that's due to a personal bias of mine, or if the tribals are just generally better as we go forward in Survivor. But what I do know is some of my honorable mentions, which include, in chronological order, the Hunter blindside from Marquesas, the Caleb flip, aka the Brad Culpepper blindside from Blood vs. Water, the Cliff blindside from Cagayan, the 3-2-1 vote, which votes out Monica in Cambodia. That time when Aubrey crossed out her vote and wrote a different name down, and she spent like 1,000 minutes, trying to figure out her vote in Korong. Of course, the Michaela blindside from Millennials vs. Gen X, the Jessica Pete boot from David vs. Goliath, the Queen Slayer move on Sandra from Winners at War, and the live tribal from the 41 premiere were all honorable mentions, but I couldn't put them on a list as I felt like they just don't compete with this. This 5 is almost like on its own like pedestal. I feel like, to me, these 5 separate themselves from these honorable mentions. So at the number 5 spot, I have David saving Jessica in Millennials vs. Gen X, where we see Jessica not see her blindside coming, and lucky for her, somebody else did who wanted to help her out and gain an ally. So to set up this vote, we're still in the pre-swap where we have eight Gen Xers, with the previous vote creating a majority of 6, of which excludes David and Ken. So to be clear, we have a six-person majority, which has the numbers over David and Ken. But with this 6-person majority, 5 of the people want Jessica, a member of this Power 6, out of the game. So they decide to put their 5 votes on Jessica, let David and Ken's votes go wherever, and let Jessica vote for Cece, who Jessica thinks is the group's next target. But their only problem is that David and Ken figure out what they're trying to pull on Jessica, and to make matters worse for this group of 5, David has an idol. David and Ken plead for Jessica to believe what they're telling her, that she's about to be blindsided, but Jessica ignores their pleas, seeing them as just 2 people who are simply trying to get off the bottom and make her paranoid. So when it's time, David plays his idol for Jessica, which confuses Jessica as she thinks she's voting along with the rest of her alliance. Then the votes come out of the urn, one by one, with Jessica realizing that David and Ken were telling her the truth the whole time, and also that she'd be gone if it weren't for David. After this, at number 4, I have the Alec flip from the David vs. Goliath, which isn't really that strategically interesting or deep, and honestly, it's a little bit confusing, but it's still very funny and still very shocking in a way, the way that the vote transpires. So to set the scene, we have a swap which pits former David tribe members Davey and Elizabeth against former Goliaths Natalia, Cara, and Alec. So when they lose the challenge, you'd think it's a pretty easy vote, with the 2 Davids being in trouble. But the catch is that Natalia is one of the most paranoid players I have ever seen, maybe since Jamie in season 11. She's very, very paranoid. So when they're facing tribal, Natalia is very active in trying to keep their tribe Goliath strong, constantly checking in on if her allies Cara and Alec are still good or not. And so we see that Alec is considering flipping because he wants to make inroads with the Davids for the merge, but he only says that in confessional. And it's honestly not that good of a move for him, as once this tribe is over, Carl, a former David, will join their tribe. So if Alec votes out a Goliath, then the Davids will gain the majority on this tribe. Also, Alex doesn't need to make inroads with the Davids right now, as he's well connected within the Goliath tribe, and it serves him best to have as many of his Goliath friends at the merge as possible, therefore incentivizing him to vote out a David right now. But despite both Logic and Natalia screaming at him not to flip, he does it anyway at tribal and joins the Davids to vote out Natalia. And what makes this vote even more unusual is the fact that Kara and Natalia, who were flipped on by Alec, didn't even vote together, which shows you how poor the Goliath communication was for this vote. At number 3, I have the Malcolm boot, where we have the Nuku and Mana tribes going to tribal together during the pre-merge, and the Nuku tribe is going in with 6 members, while the Mana tribe is going in with 5. But at tribal, when a live tribal starts, JT from the majority Nuku tribe tells Brad from the minority Mana tribe that the votes are going to go on Sierra from Brad's tribe. Why JT does this is just absolutely confusing. Maybe he thought that Brad would flip with him, but this makes no sense, as JT's tribe already has the majority and really doesn't need anyone to flip with them. They just need for an idol that could be coming from Mana to not be played on Sierra. Brad uses this info and tells Ty to play his idol for Sierra, which he does, negating these 6 Sierra votes and idling out Malcolm, a big threat coming into the game. At number 2, we have the last blindside from this list that involves an idol, with Joe Mena's idol play from season 35. So to set the scene, we have a swap tribe of 5 with a majority 3 in Ashley, Devin, and Alan, leaving Joe Mena and Desiree on the bottom, but Joe has an idol. So at tribal, Devin reads his advantage that he received earlier, but hasn't been allowed to read yet in front of everyone. And this advantage, quote unquote, is actually a disadvantage that takes away his vote for this tribal. Because of this, now the vote is 2-2 with Devin not voting. Now, in this case, it's in Joe's best interest to plead with either Ashley or Alan to flip on the other and avoid a deadlock tie vote, which would probably lead to a rock draw. This probably would have worked, as it's still early in the game and the numbers made no sense to draw rocks at this specific time. But Joe never really got that opportunity, as Jeff immediately makes them go vote. And when they all sit back down as Jeff counts the votes, Joe is trying to figure out whether Ashley and Alan put their votes on Joe or Desiree. When Joe goes up to play his idol, he looks at Ashley and Alan's faces to try and read who he should play the idol for. He decides to play it for himself, and when the votes come back, he was right. The 2 Joe votes don't count, and Alan gets the votes to go home. Joe then hilariously mocks Ashley, who looks devastated, and says, quote, "I read your face, baby girl," which is just gold. I mean, come on, bro. It's awesome. And at the number 1 spot, I have the most recent tribal to date as of recording this video, and that is the deadlock vote from Survivor 42. So to set the scene, the Vati tribe hasn't gone to tribal yet, and the tribe alliances are 3 pairs of 2. We see that Jenny and Mike are together, Hai and Lydia are together, and that leaves Daniel and Chanel in the middle of these 2 pairs. And I'm going to refer to Lydia and Hai as the Gen Zers, and Jenny and Mike as the Gen Xers at times. So just for reference, Daniel wants him and Chanel to flip over with Mike and Jenny. So even with Mike not having a vote due to the beware advantage that Mike found in the prior episode, this group of 4 would still have a 3-2 majority over Hai and Lydia. The Vati tribe loses and now has to go to tribal council, but there's a twist which sends Sanel from the Vati tribe to Shipwa Island along with Omar from the Taku tribe. Chanel and Omar speculate about what their choice will be using what their tribe mates told them. Chanel mentions that she, quote, needs her vote tonight to Omar, which is going to be key in a second, so remember that. And then before they separate, they agree that if they can both walk away from this dilemma with an advantage, then they should aim for that. It's the same twist as usual, where both players will have a choice between risking their vote or not risking it. If both players risk their vote, then nothing happens. If one player risks their vote and the other keeps their vote, then the player who risks their vote will get an extra vote advantage. But if both players risk their vote, then they both lose their votes at the next tribal council that they attend. So Omar, who was just told by Chanel that she needs her vote for tribal tonight, sees a safe opportunity to risk his vote in order to get an advantage in the game. But the big problem with that is that Chanel goes rogue, and even though she basically told Omar that she wasn't going to risk her vote, she does it anyway, screwing over Omar and leaving herself with no vote at this upcoming tribal. So now this throws a wrench in the majority's plan to take out Higher Lydia, because Chanel knows that if she loses her vote, then the power four of her, Daniel, Mike, and Jenny will only have 2 votes, since Mike cannot vote right now due to his Beware advantage, which would be an issue, as we would then see a 2-2 vote with High and Lydia voting for their target, and then Jenny and probably Daniel voting for High and Lydia. Not good. So to counteract that, Chanel goes back to camp and tells Lydia and High, who think that Chanel and Daniel are working with them, that they're doing the split vote plan, which has boys going on Mike and girls going on Jenny. But in reality, Chanel is only saying this to split High and Lydia's 2 votes, creating a 2-to-1-to-1 vote at tribal. So at this point, both of the Gen Z pairs think that Daniel and Chanel are with them, with Jenny and Mike, the Gen X pair, targeting Lydia from the Gen Z pair, and Lydia and High from the Gen Z pair targeting Jenny from the Gen X pair. So the 4 people who can vote going into tribal are Lydia, High, Jenny, and Daniel. Now, High is suspicious of Chanel's intentions of splitting the vote, sniffing out that she's probably just trying to displace their votes successfully. And he also connects her intentions to something that happened at Shipwell Island, although he doesn't really know what that is. But he still trusts her going into tribal. At tribal, we see Daniel exclaim that he will not win Survivor 42 because he is too paranoid. And when Jeff asks Daniel who is able to calm him down, Daniel says Mike and Jenny, as well as his mom, which visibly makes High extremely suspicious of Daniel's loyalties. And this is really the start of the downfall for Daniel. We then see some whispering between High and Lydia, where High calls off that split vote, which was the safeguard against what was about to happen. We then get the vote where Chanel sees that she in fact lost her vote, and Mike doesn't vote either. Jeff reads the 4 votes, and the vote comes back 2-2, and High and Lydia, instead of going for Chanel's suspicious split vote plan, opt to play it safe and vote for their target in Jenny. And Jenny and Daniel vote for the majority force target in Lydia, leaving us with a tie vote, two votes on Lydia, two votes on Jenny. Then they revote where Lydia and Jenny don't go up and vote, and since they are because of the fact that they're the only people who the vote is tied on, and since Mike and Chanel also can't vote, they go up to the booth and sit back down without casting votes, meaning that on this revote, there's only two votes in the urn, which are from Daniel and High, two people on opposite sides of the original vote. Jeff reads the 2 votes, and we see that neither flipped, and both of them keep their original vote, causing yet another tie. Now the vote is deadlocked, meaning that the people who voted on the revote, which is Daniel and High, have to come to a unanimous decision on whether or not to vote out Jenny or Lydia, or else Jenny and Lydia become immune, and the other 4 people, being Mike, Daniel, High, and Chanel, will all draw rocks. So either High or Daniel will flip to the other side in the next minute or so, or the 4 that I just mentioned will draw rocks. Daniel starts the discussion by making a big mistake, exclaiming to Hai that he does not want to go to rocks on day 7, causing Daniel to hit his vote over. Crazy stuff. But what is your favorite pre-merge blindside? Let me know in the comments down below. As I always say, none of this happens without you guys. I'm just a weird guy speaking into a weird microphone. So as always, thank you. And if that's, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.